it's the regular season finale. It's going to be a very, very spicy one here today. And it should be fun. Welcome to the Hello Roommates. I'm glad you're home from work, so that way I don't have to rub it in on your Dolphins edition of Triple P. After a very exciting weekend that we've had so far in the adventures, and hopefully everything goes back to normal. Trying to get everything back to normal and back to our Pcsra studios here for this season. It's going to be a very exciting show. Yeah, so like I said, back in a routine, which I'm happy to say. Hopefully everybody is having a very good Thursday night. Sunny conditions. Temperature here in Yukon is a steamy 92 degrees. Sunny skies. Been super dry and super muggy. And, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and recap Watkins Glen. As I said, if you didn't tune into last week's episode, I highly recommend you do that before you see this one. I'm going to do this. So we're going to go ahead and recap the Xfinity and also the Cup Series from Watkins Glen. Give you my personal opinion about the Kurt Busch news that came out today. We'll discuss about his waiver and all that. We'll also have your top story news, if there's any, that happened from last week and this week. And we'll preview Daytona, and also I will preview the other races and all of that. So that should be fun. But before I do that, I have to save one of my videos that I've done, which is the Coca-Cola Truck Series, which is something I want to go ahead and save. Want to throw a little promotional announcement at 4:15 Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to tune into our game between the Detroit Lions and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hopefully you'll tune in for that. Let's check and see if the Rams... Okay, you guys are up, so I'm going to go ahead and schedule you. I'll schedule you on the 10th. I'll do 6:15. And I will fix the editing and all that other yada 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 later. Okay. So that will probably go up to that. Alright. So let me share this video for people on YouTube. Also, I will try to update the description. That way you guys know what the rules are and all that yada yada yada. I'll do that when I update this video. Okay, Watkins Glen recap. Starting with the Xfinity Series. And again, there will not be panelists on the show because I'm just going to make this a little easier. So, starting with the Xfinity Series, the Sunoco Go Rewards 200. I didn't watch the Xfinity race, but I had to be professional and make sure to give you good opinions, if you know what I mean. So, here's how it happened. Justin Allgaier coming through the S's, which is the, after turn 1, you go up the hill, right, left. He ran a little wide, got a little bit of the guardrail, nosed it in the wall. Brought out the first of the full course cautions. Then Patrick Gallagher had an engine failure, which was soon discovered to be a rear gear, which he broke, which he stopped on track, brought out a full course caution. The rest of Stage 1 was clean. Sammy Smith won Stage 1. More on him in just a second about the news. Then Alex Lebay stopped on track. Looks like he apparently crashed, so that was not good. So his race was DONE. 68 of Chris Wright had a drive shaft broke on his car, which proved to be terminal. Chris Wright, by the way, making his first Xfinity start after he was released from Nice last week, which is a bit of a shame, which I still don't understand why Nice likes to do that to their full-time drivers, but it is what it is. So, his race was done. Stage 2 was won by William Byron, which he doesn't get stage points because he's a Cup driver, same with the winner we'll come to in just a few moments. Then Daniel Hemrick had an accident going through turn number 9, which really sucked for him. Then we had the 92 car of Ross Chastain get stuck in the gravel trap. Apparently he ran really wide and just couldn't hit the brake pedal just to not go in the gravel trap. Then on that restart, William Byron and Ty Gibbs spun out going into the inner loop, which Byron should have given Ty Gibbs more room, which theoretically, and then Byron spins Ty Gibbs in turn 10. Why he did that, I don't know. But at the end of the day, however, it was Kyle Larson who picked up the Xfinity win at Watkins Glen. So the top 10 results for the Xfinity Series race are as follows. Kyle Larson, the winner. A.J. Allmendinger, second. Sammy Smith, third. I'll talk about him in the driver change for Daytona coming up. Noah Gragson, fourth. Cass Gralla, fifth. Sam Mayer, sixth. Riley Herbst, seventh. Sheldon Creed, eighth. Josh Berry, ninth. And Jeremy Clements complete the top 10. I'll get back on the global stuff next week on my show, so yeah. Then we go to the Cup Series race. It was let's say, interesting. Of course, the race was delayed due to rain. One day did get underway. Time of the race was like 2 hours, 17 minutes, plus if you throw like an hour and so delay, if you know what I mean. But here's how the Cup race went down. Nothing happened in Stage 1. That was won by Chase Briscoe. Nothing happened in stage number 2. That was won by Joey Logano. So the first two stages were calm and clean. Stage 3, it got a little crazy. First actual yellow, that was not a stage incident. We had some debutants. We had, Danny Kvyat making a second start in the Cup Series. He made his debut back at Indianapolis. Kimi Räikkönen making his Cup debut. Got into an incident with Ross Chastain, Austin Dillon, and the 27th of Loris Heinzman, which put Kimi Räikkönen in the tire wall coming out of the inner loop. Räikkönen's Cup debut came to a sadful end, which is too bad because he was doing really well. Joey Hand had an incident going into turn number 1, and then Loris Heinzman beached his car in the gravel trap. So that's basically how it went. Blue Hedgehog Man 17, how are you doing today, my friend? And note, if you guys have not subscribed to this channel, I highly recommend you do so. At the end of the day, Kyle Larson swept the weekend and won the Cup Series, and then I'll give my honorable mentions to some people. The top 10 results for Cup. Kyle Larson, the winner. A.J. Allmendinger, second. Joey Logano, third. Chase Elliott, fourth. Daniel Suarez, fifth. Michael McDowell, sixth. Seventh was Tyler Reddick. Christopher Bell, eighth. Chris Buescher, ninth. And Eric Jones, 10th. Other debut driver who made his Cup debut, Mike Rockenfeller. If you don't know him, he was a DTM driver. He came home in the 30th position. Ty Gibbs, who was subbing for Kurt Busch, came home in 26th. Not a good road racer, but then again, he's never raced on a road course in Cup, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Eric Jones, I have a feeling he's going to win a race one of these days in that GMS racing car. So thoughts on Watkins Glen. The Cup race was really good. I don't know if you all know this. I mean, I love seeing these cars. I mentioned this last week. If we did get rain for the Cup race, which we did, it's going to spice things up. And so far, NASCAR made the right choice to have a single file restart, or a single file for the start of the race, not single file restart. But anyway, they felt like the track was starting to dry. They went back to double file restarts. NASCAR did what they needed to do to make sure nobody had issues as far as that's concerned. I thought, Xfinity, it was a good battle for the win. If Byron would have just given more room to Ty Gibbs and not caused the spin, who knows what would have happened between those two. But, fair play to Kyle Larson coming through and getting the big win in Xfinity and Cup. So, Kyle Larson hadn't won in a while, so that really is big. Speaking of big, the big news that happened this morning, which brings us to our top story news. Kurt Busch will not be in the playoffs for the Cup Series. He announced this morning he will not be cleared to start the playoffs. Excuse me. I had some ice cream before I started this show, if y'all don't mind. But back to the seriousness. Kurt Busch announced he wasn't going to be cleared to start race as far as starting the playoffs is concerned. 2311 Racing has withdrawn their playoff waiver, which for those that don't know about a playoff waiver is allowed if a driver tested positive for COVID-19 like Chris Buescher did and why he missed Gateway. Also, if you're injured or something like that. So, like injury, or if you had COVID-19 like Chris Buescher did, you get a playoff waiver requested by NASCAR. Well, they met with NASCAR this morning and said that it would not be fair for Kurt Busch to be clear. And I hate it for Kurt. Kurt Busch won at Kansas. He really looked like, to me, was going to be possibly round of 8, if not possibly almost to the championship 4. But, it's very unfortunate that, this concussion that he's had since Pocono, where he had his accident, it sucks. And for those that have been following this channel for a long time, my dad played a lot of sports. So I could say, from my perspective, and I also was an athlete when I did marching band. So I kind of knew the risk versus reward in that kind of deal. But for Kurt Busch, the 2004 Cup champion, he made the decision to say, it's not worth my playoff spot. Yes, I understand I won at Kansas, but it's not fair for like a Martin Truex or a Ryan Blaney to miss the playoffs. So I'm going to withdraw from my waiver and just focus on my health and all that. So what it did do, however, is now Martin Truex Jr., who was outside the cut line, which he was 25 points behind Blaney going into Daytona, he is now on the bubble ahead of Eric Jones, who now slides up to 17th. So this race at Daytona, and we'll get to Daytona in just a second, this race at Daytona is really going to make things a little bit more complicated, if you ask me. And I talked to, Corey and everybody over on the Rowdy deal on Tuesday, which if you guys have not watched the show, I highly recommend you go follow Corey Huffnagger. If I said your last name wrong, I do apologize. We talked about a lot of things, and, it's going to make things a little bit interesting. Now with only 2 spots available instead of 1, it's really going to be critical for stage points to be a factor. And remember, this is the last race of the regular season because the playoffs begin next week at Darlington, and it's going to be critical because this is also the last race where tech will last between 90 minutes to 120 minutes. Because this time next week, when we have post-race inspections, all 16 playoff drivers have to do inspection, probably like heights and all that. So it's going to be a little bit longer for tech, when we start the first round versus, where we had like top two and all that, yada yada yada. They have to tag all 16 playoff drivers for Cup. And some people are like, well, why is tag taking so long? Because they want to make sure no playoff team going into next week has an advantage in when we have post-race inspection. Because remember, all 16 teams have to do tech, just like trucks, where they have all 10 drivers doing tech. Xfinity will have that when we go to Texas, where all 12 drivers have to do post-race inspection. That's why, once you get eliminated from the playoffs, you won't have to worry about tech unless you win like stage 1 or 2 and all that. So that's why, like I said, this is the last race where we're going to have tech being like top 2 and all that, because when we get to the playoffs, it will be all playoff drivers, and probably, so it'll be almost like half the field doing post-race inspection as far as teardowns and ride heights and all that certain things. So, yeah. So Ty Gibbs, again, will be in the 45 car this weekend at Daytona. We do not know who will be in that ride starting at Darlington, but if I had an assumption of who would that be, it will more than likely be Ty Gibbs, because let's face it, everybody was a little worried about Ty Gibbs as far as, what does this do as far as his rookie status for next season. That's if he goes up to the Cup Series. Not a question of when he goes to the Cup Series. It's if he goes to the Cup Series next year, which Kyle Busch has not announced what he's doing next year. There's been some rumblings that Kaulig Racing could be in a partnership with Kyle Busch Motorsports that I saw on Twitter today. Chevrolet could also help out KBM, so that's kind of a little iffy on that. Everybody's been saying Kyle Busch could go to Stewart-Haas Racing. Kyle Busch has not said anything as far as that's concerned, so I don't know where Kyle Busch is going, I've been seeing a lot of you guys making very good points what teams he will go. We will just have to wait and see what happens. Another key thing is we don't know if Eric Almirola is retiring after this year. Because at the beginning of the year, he announced he is retiring at the end of the year. But Jim Utter, which I don't know if you all know this, but I still don't like Jim Utter for what he did about Alex Bowman last year, which pissed me off. Do not trust Jim Utter. Jim Utter is a cancer you-know-what. Because Jim Utter said that Almirola is going to be back in the 10 car for 2023. Almirola responded and said he doesn't know if he's going to be back in Cup next year or not. So, while you have Jim Utter who thinks he knows it all, it comes down to the decision of what is best for Eric Almirola. Does he follow through with the retirement? Does he stay for Stewart-Haas Racing another season? I don't know. What I do know is he will make that final decision when he does. So, we'll just have to wait and see what happens in that process. Let me turn my phone down so you don't have to hear me as far as that's concerned. So, right now, we'll just have to see what happens. It's just not a question of if, it's a question of when. So, we'll see. Besides those silly season news and notes, that's pretty much about it as far as that's concerned. And also we'll discuss about silly season also for global, and then we'll worry about that next week on our show. I'm just focusing more on Daytona this weekend, and we'll just get global caught up and all that starting next week. So, yeah. Talking about Daytona, let's preview Daytona, shall we? Of course, we're back at Daytona for the first time since February, and I wrote down a little stat here. 37 Cup cars. This will be the smallest super speedway. Now, before anybody says anything, I do not count Atlanta Motor Speedway as a plate track. Let's get that right. The real plate tracks, in my personal opinion, is Daytona and Talladega. Simple as that. This is the smallest field for a race at Daytona/Talladega since 1969. My dad was 2 years old when that happened. 37 cars marks the smallest field at Daytona since 1968. Yeah. If that doesn't tell you how bad the entries have been of late for Cup, then you know something's up. So, yes. We have 43 cars attempting the 38 spots. Of course, we still have Cup drivers still in the still racing Xfinity, and before anybody asks when will Cup drivers not race Xfinity, that will be the regular season finale at Bristol. They will not be allowed at Bristol, and also the 7 playoff races. So they will race at, if I pull up the schedule, which I will. So, Cup drivers will be racing Xfinity this week at Daytona, next week at Darlington. Their final start in Xfinity will be Kansas. And then after that, it will just be only no Cup drivers for the last 8 races of the Xfinity season. They just want to make it fair. Now, ARCA drivers will be exceptions because they are running for points and all that, yada yada yada. So, yeah. So, talking about Sammy Smith, next topic we're going to discuss. Drew Dollar was originally supposed to do the 4-plate races at Daytona and Talladega. Not anymore. Sammy Smith will be driving the 18 this week. So, I think Joe Gibbs made the right decision to put Sammy Smith in that car, basically because I think, my personal opinion, Drew Dollar rushed himself to Xfinity. Drew Dollar was not ready for Xfinity. I'll be honest with you. Drew Dollar wasn't ready for Xfinity. Sammy Smith, on the other hand, he was ready, and, we could also see Zane Smith, who, by the way, was announced he will be running a few Cup races next year and possibly do some Xfinity races in addition to returning full-time to trucks next season, so that will be a awesome addition. So that's cool for Zane Smith, because he did really good at Gateway in his Cup debut. So, but the point is that, it's going to be a good opportunity. We'll see how FRM, Front Row Motorsports, how they're going to get an Xfinity car and all that. But, it's good to see Zane Smith returning. But, but back to the Sammy Smith situation. I think, personally, Drew Dollar does not deserve a ride in NASCAR. And I know some people are going to be like, well, Drew Dollar has the money. He is like a weapon. And I don't know if I want to associate with him or not, but the problem is Drew Dollar just hasn't performed good on the plate track. So I don't know how he's going to do, if this is going to mean he's going to be a NASCAR bust. I don't know if that will be true or not, but we will just have to wait and see about that. Okay. So Daytona, previewing Daytona. I think Daytona, like I said, Daytona is going to be an underdog statement, of course. There is going to be a chance of rain. Rain chances have gone down after 8 o'clock, so we will still have the Daytona race as usual for Cup, and also probably for Xfinity. So, yeah, so, it's really going to be interesting. Hang on, somebody just messaged me. Hang on, I'm messaging somebody. But anyway, Daytona is going to be a good race. And we'll have to keep an eye on that yellow line, which, by the way, you cannot go below the yellow line to advance your position, because in NASCAR's judgment, if you go below the yellow line to advance your position, you will be black flag. If in NASCAR's judgment you force somebody below the yellow line to prevent somebody from passing you, you could be black flag. So, that's something, we have to make sure. And also, we also talked about the dreaded big one that really could wreak havoc on not just who could win the regular season championship for Xfinity, but this could also shake up who could make the playoffs for the Cup Series. Yeah. Well, the thing is, they messaged me on Twitter, so I will just worry about them later. So, anyway. Yeah, but that's a good idea. Back to what I was saying. I think it's going to be, the common denominator of, who's going to be there right place, right time. Because if we have less than 20 cars left, it's going to be who's going to survive and make sure they have a good strategy. Because remember, it's 160 laps, 400 miles. And let me see, what are the stages? Don't help me, I can look it up. Stages for the Cup race for Xfinity is 30, 60, 100. So it's 30, 30, 40 for Xfinity. For the Cup Series, as far as their stages are concerned, it is 30. It is the completion lap 35, the completion lap 95. So it's 35, 60, and let me see, what's 160 minus 95? Don't help me, I can figure that out. 160 minus, oops, 65. So, we know the Cup race, they're going to have to make pit stops, and also it's going to be we could have green, white checkers, so that's going to be something we'll have to keep an eye on. So, yeah. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to the greatest tradition that I do here on Triple P, and that is predictions. Now, if you are new to this channel and you don't know how I do predictions, here is how it works. Driver to win is a driver we think is going to win the race, because Daytona, we can put out anybody because it's not an too easy event. One of 4 races that we do that is not too easy. Driver stay away from is a driver who's really been having some bad luck of late, and or we're coming to a track who doesn't do really good and surprising. Dark horse from, and yes. Now, to the panelist that's watching this deal, it is 1 point for Xfinity. It is 1 point for Cup, but it's also 3 points each for the 2 drivers. It was going to be 1, but now with Kurt Busch no longer in the playoffs, it will now be 2. It will now be 6 points and not 3, because we have to predict 2 drivers who I think is going to make the playoffs. So, yes. But before we get into predictions, let's get right into the points. Let me see, the points. I'll also give you the point standings as well as for global as far as that is concerned. Oh, I do not have the NASCAR standings after Watkins Glen. Give me 1 second. Let me ask let me ask one of my panelists to go ahead and send me the points. Put it into the predictions and all that, so. Okay, I'll just go over the global standings because that's the only standings I have. So, for global going into our blah, 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 Cody Smart has 540 points. I'm in second place with 461. Zachary Taylor, 384. Brendan Rogers, 131. Sean rounds out the top 5 with 113. 30 points ahead of Kyle Langland, who's 6th. And David Heller, 7th with 74. Let me find the Watkins Glen tally. Xfinity tally. Okay, there it is. So, I gotta update the tally. So, give me 1 second. So, Jared won last week, and Jared also took the points lead for the Rookie of the Year honors, which means he is up by 1 point over Sean. And also, I should mention, if any of my roommates interrupt me during the stream, I'm going to tell them, hold it off until the show is over. Please and thank you. Okay, for Rookie of the Year. Jared Underhill, 241. Sean, 240. No. Okay, I probably already know who got the points, so... Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the updated points. While I'm doing that, I want to remind everybody, I forgot to do this also on the air, that this telecast of Pcsra is going to hit a milestone in a couple of years. Next year is we started in 2010. We'll hit our 13th year of Pcsra, which we're super excited to have. I'll just do this. I'll just do this. Xfinity tally. Yeah. Okay. Now the NASCAR standings after it got all jumbled up. Okay, so going into Watkins Glen, of course, Cody didn't have a good weekend. So Cody is at 231, even though he had a bad weekend. He currently still has the points lead over Sean by 20 points, 21 points ahead of Zachary Taylor in third. I'm in fourth place with 204 still. Jared Underhill gained some points on me at 192 points. Then Kyle Langland is 6th with 67. Allison Rain, 7th with 62. Brendan Rogers, 8th with 57. 9th is Great Lakes with 54. David Heller completes the top 10 with 42. Nathan Bell, 11th with 36 points. And Quentin Moore last with 32. Okay. Time for my picks. For Xfinity. And should note, should qualifying get rained out, the 5 drivers who would fail to qualify on the entry list, and I'll point this out. The 5 car is not Natalie Decker. It's actually somebody else. I'll have to look, because they have not updated the entry list yet. Or let me look at Austin Konetsky. Let's see. Let's see here. Also, Joey Logano extended will continue to be with Penske next season. So, yeah. Patrick Emmerling is going to be driving the 5 car instead of Natalie Decker. Tim Veens will drive the 47 for Mike Harmon Racing. Tim Veens, Josh Williams, CJ McLaughlin, Joe Nemechek, and Ronnie Bassett Jr. Should qualifying get canceled, those 5 would have to go home if qualifying gets rained out. So, just throwing that there. Okay, now Xfinity. Driver to win. Oh, yuck, 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 yuck. Ugh. I'm gonna go Justin Haley. Could he win his third race in a row? I have a good feeling he is going to do that. Driver, stay away from. This is a really difficult call. But if I base it off what we saw back in February, this driver has had super bad luck, and he has not had a good luck at Daytona. Driver, stay away from Jeremy Clements. Dark horse, I'm going to go with the dinger. AJ Allmendinger. To Cup. Driver to win. Oh, this is the part where I hate having to be the nice guy. Oh, great. I'm going to actually go with a former winner this season. And the reason I'm going with a former winner this season is because I think with what we saw back at Daytona, I think he's going to be on a mission as far as that's concerned. So, driver to win. I'm actually going to take a driver who has not won this season. I'm going to say, to make the playoffs, I'm going to say Ryan Blaney as the driver to win. I'm going Blaney. I want Blaney to make the playoffs. And he'll be a part of my playoffs. Also part of my playoffs, I'm going to go with MTJ. Driver, stay away from. Ever since winning the Daytona 500, he has had a pretty bad run of late. I'm going to say Austin Cindric is the driver to stay away from. Ever since winning the 500, he has not done anything great, and I have a good feeling he's going to be a first-round elimination if he doesn't get it together. Dark horse, Eric Jones. The way he's been performing for GMS Racing, I think he has got a really good chance. And, of course, my playoffs are Ryan Blaney and MTJ Martin Truex Jr. So, yeah. So, that is my predictions, which is really good so far. Alright, let's take a look at this week's upcoming Pcsra athletic events. Of course, tomorrow on my channel, we are going to have the 24th race of the Oreo Cup Series, which, let me double check where they are racing at tomorrow. They're racing at 8 Bull. It will be a 12 p.m. Eastern Time green flag at 8 Bull, which will be noon Eastern. So hope you guys will tune in for some super speedway racing from 8 Bull. Next week we'll be at Papyrus, which will be another fun race so far. So, yeah. That's a look at this week's upcoming Pcsra athletic events, brought to you by Kim K Coachline, the official motor coach carrier of Pcsra Athletics. Now time for your Jana King clean scores from around the country as far as baseball is concerned. Some games are going on right now. Reds and Phillies are currently scoreless. That game's heading to the third at Citizens Bank Park. Baltimore Orioles lead the Chicago White Sox 2-1. That game is in the bottom of the second. Rockies and Mets scoreless in the bottom of the second. Blue Jays have a 2-0 lead over the Boston Red Sox, also going to the bottom of the second. Later today will be Twins and Astros and Yankees A's. Finals from earlier today, Rays beat the Angels 8-3. Rasmussen got the win, improves to 9-4. Sandoval, the loss, falls to 4-9. There you go. Cubs 8-3. Dakota Hudson got the win, improves to 7-6. Stroman for the Cubs got the loss, falls to 3-6. And then Mariners beat the Guardians 3-1. Gonzalez got the win, improves to 9-12. McKenzie the loss falls to 9-10. Munoz with his third save on the season. That is your Jana King clean scores from around the country and around the baseball world. Jana King is the king of clean. Final thoughts for me before we get this Daytona party started. Well, I will say that this is an opportunity to see how this race will play out. I think we're in for a very good race at Daytona. And something new that the Gen 7 cars will have to get used to. We have never raced at Daytona in August, so it's going to make things a bit more interesting. So we'll have to see what happens, and it should be a very good series, good race weekend down there at Daytona Beach. Hopefully the weather will not force a postponement, because we don't need a postponement. So, yeah. So that should be something we're looking forward to, and hopefully you guys can watch the Xfinity race. That'll be tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time on USA Network. I'm still not used to. I'm used to saying NBCSN. It's USA Network, and then NBC 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll have Countdown to Green. That will be a lot of fun, and hope you guys look forward to that, if you know what I mean. Special thank you to my panelists who unfortunately weren't able to join me. They are the greatest tradition: Kyle Langland, Zachary Taylor, Great Lakes, Jarrett Underhill, Cody Smart, Sean Art, Allison Lira, for their awesome help as always, for taking care of everything. Our statistician, Caleb Hobbs, producer and engineer, Zachary Fitzwater, Jackie Ting, Alex Hawkins, Dennis Stats Kelly, Tom Shores, Greg Rutz, Crystal Fontaine, Nathan Orman running the show for us back in our Pcsra Network studios. The Oklahoma Highway Safety Office is a proud sponsor of OU and Triple P Athletics and wants to remind you that drinking and driving is deadly and illegal. Together as one nation, we can end DUI. Visit enduyok.com to learn more. So, who will be in? Who will be out after Saturday's race? We'll find out before next week's show. Final score, one final time from preseason week number 2. It was the Tennessee Titans 13, the Tampa Bay Bucks 3. So, yeah. You could also watch it on NBC Sports app on your computer if you don't have NBC or USA. So that's how you can watch the races. Or you can watch it, listen to the race on MRN, the Motor Racing, the voice of NASCAR. So there you go. Until next week, when global and everything goes back to normal, and until next week when we recap Daytona and preview the Lady in Black Darlington, which is the first race of the playoffs for the Cup Series, which will be fun. But until next week, I'm Dean DeVoe saying, Boomer Sooner, everybody. See you all next week on Triple P. Until then, good night from Yukon, Oklahoma.
Pcsra Sports Network. Copyright 2022 by the Pcsra Association.